Hey everybody, one of the most common questions I receive is how do you make money in sports photography, or best ways to make money in sports photography? And I gotta tell you, there's a lot of different ways to do it. It's not just action sports or sportraiture as they call it these days. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different venues and avenues into generating income in your sports photography. To that end, I am now starting what I hope to be a series of interviews with different people that I know who are making money in photography, specifically sport photography. To that end, today I'm talking with Andy Jones. Andy has a really good podcast that I listen to on a regular basis called Photography Side Hustle. Now, Andy isn't specifically a sports photographer. He talks about all genres of photography. However, he gives some really great tips and tricks on how to turn your what could be just, your hobby into something that actually makes money on the side for you. Even if you're not ready to give up your day job, like me, you want to do it on the side and make a little bit of money in sports photography, Andy's podcast is a great way to go. So with that, let's go to this discussion I had with Andy on how to make some money in photography, specifically sports photography.
All right, let's get going with it. So
Right.
Andy, with if you were starting all over again, based on what you know now, how would you do it? How would you start all over again in your photography journey, especially to make some money at
Right. I would start with a new camera body, the R6 Mark II that I've already got. It's
it?
an
All right.
excellent camera. The autofocus is so fast. And I would buy an 85mm f1.2, and I would shoot portraits. I would
You
go
shoot portraits.
all out shooting portraits. A few flashes, a few stands, diffusers, and away you go.
All right. Yeah, as I think we've had a conversation before about this, portraits are probably my weak side, although my wife always wants me to take portraits of our kids or like my daughter going to prom. But that is a weak point of mine, and I'd really love to do better at that, especially with the genre of sportraiture is turning out to be so big these days.
Yeah.
And I'm doing sports, but I would love to be able to get better at taking really cool portraits of
Yeah.
those athletes in their uniforms with the balls, doing something cool action wise. So
Yeah.
I feel I would love to do that. I'm sure it's a very lucrative market when it comes to portraits.
Yeah. I think the editing side of it is the most interesting for me. It's you can go beyond the norm. There's some
Right.
that people that I follow that they just do some beautiful things. They look like paintings, like
Oh yeah.
kids portraits and that kind of thing. They're just amazing. Just absolutely amaze me.
In your opinion, how do you get bookings, and how do you identify your preferred customer?
Uh, the biggest thing I've used when I've been doing portraits, weddings, that kind of thing, it,
Yeah.
it was Facebook. Because
Mm,
you've got to look at the age group and the age of the people that are booking you. It's not just the bride and the groom, it's the mother, the grandmother that's a lot of times paying out for the wedding or paying
right.
for the photography, So I would go in Facebook groups, all the local Facebook
Yeah.
groups, and just go for it. I would just be friends with everybody, help them out, give advice, and then I'd ask them to give me some advice, what do you think of these pictures, that kind of thing. My little trick is, put a black and white and a color picture up of a portrait you've just been doing or a wedding
Yeah.
picture and just put it out there, which one do you think's the best? And then straight away they know you're a photographer. You get back a week later and say, by the way, they loved both of them, they bought both of them, thanks for your help. You're just putting your name out there, getting in quietly.
Right.
The big thing with getting bookings for me was always getting people to the website. Once you can get them to
Yeah.
your website, and well, most photographers don't have a mailing list, and they should have a mailing list
All right.
because
Good idea.
it's like a net. They go on your website, they see a little note, and it says, sign up for my this month's special offers, or find out what's
Right.
happened. Anything you can use just to get them to sign up. They sign up, and every week, every 2 weeks, every month, or whatever you want, you just send them emails saying, the Easter shoots are about to start. If you book
Right.
before Friday, you'll get it at this rate, and you can build your own army of potential customers. So that is, once I got onto that, and I actually did it without a mailing list company, and I almost got thrown thrown off my internet provider because I was sending like 150
Wow.
emails at a time.
Wow.
That's going back a few years. Now I
Yeah.
use a company called ConvertKit. They're very good. And in MailChimp as well. They'll ConvertKit at the moment offers, I think you can have up to 1,000 people on your list, and it doesn't
Wow.
cost you anything. So, but
Terrific.
if you've got that, that is the one thing that will get you bookings. As long as you can get people from
Mhm.
social media, wherever, to your website, get them to sign up, and that is where you'll get most of your bookings from.
So in my own local area, there are a couple of those Facebook groups that you're talking about. Uh, some of them are very open to businesses, saying post whatever you want.
Yeah,
Um, but others are much more restrictive. And yes, you'd have to, kind of work your way in there, like you
yeah,
described.
yeah.
Um, don't go in guns blazing.
No,
Ask, provide more value than take is
yes,
probably the good watchword when it comes to those Facebook
yeah.
groups. I know you've talked social media on your channel or your podcast. What do you think are some good today? What are some good social media strategies?
Well, I've got to admit I struggle with it. It's changed so much. Instagram used to be a great place to build a photography business, and it isn't
Mm.
anymore. My
Yeah, a
daughter,
lot of video.
yeah, my daughter started a business 6 years ago. She
Mhm.
wanted to get into the movies. She wanted to work with directors, that kind of thing. There's a big scene
Yeah,
in Toronto that she was into.
yeah.
So she, to get the money to go on a course, she actually started a photography business, and I showed her what to
Mm.
do. Well, she didn't listen, but I showed her what to do.
Yeah.
And she started on Instagram, and she was getting bookings like I couldn't believe. Well, she started the business again now. She misses it,
Yeah.
and she's trying to do the same thing she did 5 6 years ago, and it isn't working.
Right.
There's just she tries reels, she tries different things on there, and it's just she's not getting any traction at all. Um, I've told her to get onto LinkedIn, and she said, "Well, that's all for business people." I said, "Well, business people have kids, they get married, they're no different than you and me. They just probably got more
Right.
money."
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
so she's looking into that. She's looking at Pinterest. I don't think Pinterest is that much use for photographers. Maybe it's more recipes. Um, um, my favorite was always Facebook. But if your demographic, the people you're going after, are not 30 plus, if they're the younger lot, you're just not going to get them anymore. It's different. It's all changed so much. TikTok just baffles me. I I can't imagine going on there dancing or doing anything. But you know,
Yeah. So what I find in sports photography, most of my customers are parents or booster clubs, and for teams, and or parent groups for teams.
okay,
So this is what I find. Facebook doesn't do it does okay. Um, Most of my followers are on Instagram, and
yeah,
I get a lot of students following me on Instagram.
okay,
I
all right,
get schools teams following me on Instagram. So Instagram for me is actually fairly good
yes,
as far as interaction. Facebook, not so much. But again, kids aren't on Facebook. Teenagers are not on Facebook. They
yeah,
ignore it completely. They call it mom book, right? So I do get some contact out of Facebook, usually through Facebook messaging, which is interesting.
yes,
Um, my situation is also a little different in that because I have a YouTube channel, a lot of my potential customers are other photographers. So a lot of the people who follow me are other photographers,
yeah,
which is fine because I also do YouTube.
yeah,
And as part of the thing when you're doing YouTube is you're actually selling to other photographers to a certain extent. So,
yes,
um, and that is when we're talking about streams of money. That is part of my business model um, is YouTube
yeah,
and people contacting me, either setting up regular photography gigs, which are with regular customers, but other photographers contacting me for assistance or mentoring sessions.
yeah,
And so that works out for me too. So
yeah,
uh, basically with photography, I have multiple streams of income as much as I possibly can. I'm
yeah.
always looking for something else. So we kind of touched on marketing. Is there any other ways to market yourself other than what we just described in social media? Is it worth
Um,
running ads or anything like that?
the simplest and most just turning up at someone's door with a pamphlet, a leaflet. Um, there's a guy I've got friends with, an older photographer, and he said
Mm-hmm.
if he can put his brochure, his little pamphlet they used to print out, into someone's hand, a business owner's hand, and he
Mm-hmm.
used to do headshots. He'd shoot anything commercial, like products, that kind of thing. If he could
Right.
get it into their hand, he had way better chance than paying for a Facebook ad or knocking on doors. Still works.
Right.
It's incredible. What I used to
Right.
do before the pandemic was turn up at an ice rink, taking
Mm.
pictures of my grandkids, my grandson, and my granddaughter,
Right.
and I would go and take pictures of them. Week after the next game, I would turn up with one of the posters, and I'd used to do 36 by 24-inch posters, and I'd get them printed somewhere cheap, nothing expensive, and I would hand them over to my grandson, who was 10 at the time or 9, whatever, and he's done it every year since. At one point, he had four posters of himself all on his bedroom wall every year. But once you open that up and people see what you are doing, the
Mm-hmm.
amount of bookings I would get, and I charge $125 for these posters. It cost me $25 to make, and I used to
Right.
do it right up to the pandemic. That was just a thing. If I had nothing to do a weekend, I'll go down a game, or if there's a softball game, I'd go down there. I really feel actually going out and meeting people is stronger than just um, going on a Facebook group, chasing people. If you can, one way I got a soccer team, a local soccer team. I was talking to a guy and I said, "Could I give you a call tonight? I want to talk about it." Well, actually, we've got a committee meeting. So, could I come? And he goes, "Yeah, you can
Right.
sit. You can sit in." So I took some donuts and some brochures, and I handed them out to the committee members and sat there, and they all ate donuts. And I got the
Right.
booking. I got the booking for that team. Well, the league. There weren't many teams in it. It's probably 10, but I got it for
Mm-hmm.
that summer, all for the price of a dozen donuts and some brochures.
I did something similar. So I got in with a local high school football team booster club because I showed up at their booster meetings. They were posting their schedule online. I figured out when their booster meetings were, and I just showed up. And I figured out who was the decision maker in the group, and I went and had a conversation with them.
Wow.
And that's how I got almost a full season worth of games that they paid for. So yeah, I definitely agree with the in-person handshake. This is what I offer. Check
Yeah.
me out. This is what
Yeah.
I can do for you. And throwing them a deal doesn't help either, or doesn't hurt either.
No,
So
no,
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if they know you, they're less likely to dump you. If a young kid
Right,
comes along, they've got a tie to you.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
So how do you separate yourself from the competition when it comes to the photography business?
The simplest way is quality and service, but it's hard to show someone the quality and service before you start
Right,
working for them.
right,
Um,
right.
Using good equipment, like are all the people that are competing with you all using good quality glass?
Not necessarily, no.
No, no, but I've seen your work, and when I saw
Right.
your work, it was just like, yeah, that's right on. It was really, really sharp, clean, no problems with it. There's
Well,
not
thank you.
there's not an old lady sitting on a lawn chair at the edge of the field in the background.
That,
You really thought
right,
about
right,
angles and everything.
right,
Um, People that are not that good are going to have, they're not going to have the blurry background, the bokeh.
right.
You're gonna see everyone standing in the background.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
the other thing is, if you're shooting sports, especially sports and little kids sports, um, like I used to shoot figure skating. That was the first thing I got into, was figure skating because of my daughter. And I started doing dog agility competitions because there was one nearby, and I thought, I'll get into that, and they loved it. And what I was doing was magazine covers. I used to do posters for figure skating. I used to do a calendar for all the local
Right.
clubs. That made me a lot of money.
They like to do big banners of like the varsity for sure. usually the varsity team or maybe the seniors, stuff like that. So that is definitely happens on a regular basis. I see in my area. Now the companies that are doing that tend to be like the portrait studios,
Yeah.
not necessarily guys like me, but I could definitely see moving into something like that. Media days. You know, when I was in high school, there's no such thing as a media day. I mean, we got on a big set of bleachers, got our picture taken, and maybe like one little individual, and that was it, right?
Yeah.
But now they show up, and it's like college media days, and
Yeah.
they're all in these fancy poses and the
Everyone's a
whole
movie
bit.
star.
Right. So and then they turn them into perhaps to these posters, stuff like that. So it's not something I do on a regular basis. Again, to me, photography is still a side hustle. It's not my main occupation. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I plan to retire in a couple of years from my main job, and I'll probably these are all different areas I want to get into sports, kind of like the peripheral of action sports on the sides, the portraiture, the media day stuff. It's all ways to make money. So one question I often see is, how do you price your work? How do you figure out what price you're
Oh,
going to put on your
this
work?
this is the big one.
Yeah.
So starting out, you've got two options. Well, the easiest one is compare yourself to other photographers in your area that are doing with similar work,
Right.
and price at a similar level. But the big problem is 99% of the guys out there not got a clue what they should be charging. They're probably undercharging,
Right.
and it's just a race to the bottom if you do that too much. When you get serious, when you really want to make some money with your business, you need to add everything up, everything that you spend, that you need, the percentage of your house, even like your office, how much of the house you use, work out that percentage of your mortgage, whatever it is, your rent. Add everything together, everything you spend money on, whether it's gas in the car, um, whatever, anything, like the cost of stamps or whatever you use, you need to add it all up. And then think about how many weeks of the year you're going to work, say 48 of the 52. Divide the amount that you've come up with that you need to earn. Included in that is a wage. So say if you wanted to earn, I don't know, 50,000, 60,000, with all your costs, add it all together and divide it by the 48 months. That will give you your break-even point per month. And if you divide that down, that will give you break-even point per week. And then if you decide you want to do 3-4 different sessions a week,
Right.
divide that amount by that, and that would be a break-even point per session. I've got what they call Excel. I've got an Excel spreadsheet on the website, and it's free to download. You just got to give me your email address.
For that, that mailing list.
There you go. Yeah. So you put all your information in, click the button, and you can work out, if you can work out what you've got to earn per session, per shoot, then you can price accordingly. If you know you've got to make $350 per session, then you know that you're going to have to earn. That's your break even point, right? So if you aim at 450 or 400 per session,
right,
you're going to be good at the end of the year. You'll be fine. But not knowing that, everything's a guess. If you just say, "Oh, I made $200 this week," well, and you need to make it a proper business. You need to make 800 or more. You really need to know these figures. But a good way to start is just to get going. Is just copy other people and see how it goes. The other thing you can do. This is what portrait people that do IPS, in-person sales, where they sell prints. They say when you're starting out, if you're going to sell, say, a canvas, a good sized canvas, and it's going to cost you $100 to get printed and delivered.
Right.
You times that by 3 or as much as 4. So you sell it at $300 to $400, and that will supposedly give you enough to live on. But it's still you might, have a huge mortgage. You don't know. You've got to work out, like I say, you've got to work out those numbers and then come up with your pricing.
So I think what happens to a lot of photographers, and myself included, when I was first starting out, uh, well, first of all, I did some free work because I was just trying to generate a little
Yeah.
business. So, yeah, people freak out. Some photographers freak out about don't do any free work, don't do any free work. But when you're first starting out, you have to build up your portfolio, right?
Yes.
And so you have to be able to show people stuff that you've done. So yes, I do free work. I may take photos of a kid. I may not give them the photos. Maybe I just go out and shoot a game, but at least I have a portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah.
From there, yeah, it's trying to figure out how much people are charging in my area at my level, right? And it's taken several years where I feel, and there's a confidence thing there too, right? That what they call it, the imposter syndrome, that you feel like you're not good enough. Yeah. And I felt that way for a long time when I got back into this business. Now I've gotten to the point where I feel confident enough in myself where I charge. I've looked at what other people are charging, and I am just in that same ballpark. Yes. And I have enough confidence now where if somebody's not willing to spend that, I'm like, okay, it's been nice knowing you. I'll just move on to the next person. I've gotten to the point where this is my value, and I'm not going to take less. And if you don't want to pay it, that's fine. Yeah. If you want to pay me less, I'll stay on the couch. I'm okay with that. But I do have a luxury. I do have a side job, or a regular job. But I think you just have to get to that point in your development where you're as good or better than everybody else out there. Yeah. And you could charge as much, or if not more, than the other guy is charging for it. Yeah. And exactly. have confidence in yourself and know your worth. And I'll still give people a deal, like especially if they buy multiple packages from me or multiple games, I'll give them a cut up. I'll give them a break to get more from them. Yeah. I still do that, but you got to have confidence in yourself. Compare yourself to other people. Yeah. What are other people charging? A lot of people don't like to say what they're charging, but figure out what the market it will bear. And that's the other thing is, what will your market bear? We have an area in my area called, it's North Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, very rich area. Those people are willing to pay. And if I do work up there with those folks, I'm willing to charge for it. Yep. And some other areas, people just won't pay for it. And so I either have to make a decision to either lower my prices to get that business, or just don't do that business. Take that business.
Yeah, you've really got to know your customer.
Well, yeah. All right, Andy, thank you so much for being on the show, on the channel. I appreciate it. I listen to your show on a regular basis. I pick up on little pieces of information every once in a while, and I enjoy it. You have a great presentation. And so thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Now you know I've got the perfect face for podcast, not for video.
All right, Andy, thanks you. I appreciate it very much. Once again, everybody, I highly recommend you check out Andy's podcast, The Photography Side Hustle. I'll leave all the contact information and the URLs for his website and for his podcast in the description below. I hope you check it out. He's really a good source, and I appreciate him coming on today. And with that, once again, I hope to make this a regular occurrence where I talk to different photographers about how they're making money, specifically in sports photography.